This is the Ohio River Valley, one of the most beautiful areas of the country and a major source of hostility between the British and the French in the mid-1700s. The French and British had been competing over land in North America since the Spanish Empire had begun to decline. Both countries wanted to be the world's next superpower. The two countries looked to carve up North America for themselves. The French wanted to colonize North America so they could harvest the resources and make their economy stronger. Specifically, they wanted North American furs and lumber. However, they had to compete with British colonists who were now moving west of the Mississippi River and joining the fur trade. They would settle in Canada, which is why today many people in Quebec speak French. These French colonists and fur traders generally had a good relationship with Native Americans because they would be the people that they were trading with. The British, on the other hand, were interested in cash crops grown in the middle and southern colonies and the shipping industry in New England. This required land grabbing from Native American tribes, which led to constant issues between the two. Both the British and the French were extremely territorial of the land they had in the Americas. They created massive forts along the border of the land they controlled and the land they were fighting over. This map shows New France, which is today modern-day Canada, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota, as well as western parts of New York and Pennsylvania. The British were in control of the 13 colonies and Nova Scotia. The two countries were fighting over the yellow areas in between them, and Spain controlled Florida. In comes a 21-year-old British colonial major named George Washington. He was sent with his militia, or a group of soldiers made of ordinary citizens, to Fort Necessity. He was tasked with marching to Fort Duquesne and telling the French to leave the area. Instead, he started a war. Some say Washington accidentally ordered his soldiers to fire at French troops. Some say the French fired at his troops first, but no one is quite sure what happened. What we do know is that Washington retreated to Fort Necessity and ultimately surrendered to the French, thus starting the French and Indian War. Once this happens, both the French and British look to get as many Native American allies as possible. Of course, the French, who have a better relationship with Native American tribes, have an easier time with this. On the other hand, the British, who have been very aggressive to Native Americans, have a difficult time making allies. Their major victory here is that they can keep the Iroquois Confederacy neutral instead of joining the side of the French. The French rallied early in the war, capturing several British forts, while their Native American allies raided the Ohio River Valley, killing settlers and driving the rest back east. In 1757, William Pitt becomes the Prime Minister of the British government. A great military leader, he would send trained British troops to fight the French and relieve the colonial militia who had no formal training. These troops were able to capture numerous French forts, including Fort Duquesne, later renamed Fort Pitt. In 1760, the British were able to capture the cities of Quebec and Montreal and defeat the French. When the dust settles, the Treaty of Paris will be signed in 1763. The French were forced to give Canada to the British, as well as all of their lands east of the Mississippi River. France would also surrender some land west of the Mississippi River, called Louisiana, to their ally in this war, which was Spain. Spain would end up losing Florida to the British in this treaty as well. Now, there were only two European powers in North America, Britain and Spain, which was declining rapidly. This wouldn't be the last of the effects from the war, however, as the British colonists would soon learn. As for the French colonists, many were moved out of modern-day Canada and Maine during the Acadian deportation. The British did not like the idea of keeping the French around, and some of these French colonists were able to relocate to Louisiana. There, their culture would mix with the Spanish, creating the Cajun culture of Louisiana that we know today. Thanks for watching.